Everybody. I'm Dennis Doherty with the North Carolina Songwriters Co-op, and we're going to talk about music theory. So, music theory, it's the kind of thing where if you don't know anything about music theory, it seems like things are random in music and they have these names and titles that are confusing and sometimes contrary to normal intuitions, but all this stuff has meaning. And one of the things I was thinking about just today was that there's a certain amount of science to it all. That music, we think, that, oh, we invented music, humans. Well, we really didn't, because sound is something that occurs in nature. It's science.
In a story class.
And so if we look at the science of sound, there's something called a note, right? And a note, a tone, a certain vibration, frequency. If you take that frequency, like let's say an A that's sworn 40 cycles a second, you get the note A. If you vibrate a string at 440 seconds cycles per second, it makes the note A. Right? Here it is. That's an A. Now, if you double the number of vibrations per second up to 880, it makes the note A, but higher. Right? That's the next A up. That has nothing to do with humans. That's all science. We didn't create music, really. We kind of twist and bend it and shape it to our own devices, but these notes exist out there in nature. Now, the distance between those two notes many years ago was divided up into steps. The easiest measurement of those steps is a regular major scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. We'll count those notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. That's 7. Do is the 8th note. Octave, 8. There's 8 notes in a scale. It's the octave. But that division is kind of something that we humans have thrown in there. You could divide that up into many different sections, parts. Well, some cultures actually did divide that up into something like 13 parts or 24 parts, but it's really hard to get your mind and your ear around that much. So what we've done is we've divided up we go with the system that basically divides it into 12 tones, 12 equal half steps, we call it. So the difference between a half step and a whole step on a guitar, it's really easy to see. Here's a half step. It's the next note up on the string, the next fret up. Another half step. Well, 2 halves make a whole. So that's a whole step. Well, here's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. If we divide that up into half steps, it's 12, and 13 is the repeat of the first one. So we use a 12-tone system. They're equal divisions, each of those notes apart, equal frets apart. Now, here's the weird thing. On a mandolin, right? Where's my mandolin? There it is. Look how close together the frets are. When you get up here in the high notes, holy smokes, those frets are so close together. And if it's an even smaller instrument, the frets are even closer and closer together. It gets ridiculously close. Well, those frets, those divisions, they get closer and closer together the higher the notes get and the smaller the instrument gets. The, the longer distance, the more distance between the frets, the notes get lower and the instruments get larger, such as the bass or even the stand-up double bass, right? They're longer scale. It's a lower note. You need a longer string to play that long, slower vibration per second. So I want to talk to you about this thing about tuning. Tuning is kind of almost a random thing in itself. You can tune a mandolin differently than its standard tuning, or a guitar different than its standard tuning. But there's a reason the guitar is tuned the way it is. And I want to demonstrate that to you. Okay, so my guitar, standard size guitar, right? It's not a mini guitar. It's not an extra jumbo large guitar. It's standard size guitar. The frets on the guitar are about like this, about this shape. This is how big my hand is, right? And this fits pretty good. I'm playing one note for each fret. I run out of fingers. Where's the next note? It's the next open string. That makes sense to have an instrument tuned so you can play it with those four fingers and you're on to the next string. The same thing happens with the A string. We're on to the next open string, the D. And the D, we're on to the G note. Weird thing about G, though, is that for guitar, I don't know who figured this out. It's almost like inventing the knight in chess. Who did it? Why they did it? I don't know, but boy, it's brilliant. Right? It goes, it doesn't go to the fourth note. It only goes three notes up. So these two notes sound pretty good together. They're the base of a chord, of a G chord. We'll explain that in a little bit. But on to the B string, it's again those same chromatic notes that fit into my fingers. So guitar is tuned that way because that's how much we can reach with our hand. It fits in our hand. For people with smaller hands, sometimes they even get smaller scale guitars where they actually shrink them down a little bit, like a 3/4 size guitar or one of those baby Martins or baby Taylors. They're easier to play. The strings are closer together. I mean, the neck is shorter, and so it kind of makes it a little easier to play because you're into a shorter range, so you don't have to stretch so much. That's about all I'm comfortable stretching with anyway on a guitar, is those four notes in that first position. I don't want it any bigger than that. Okay, so the thing is, on mandolin, it's tuned the same as violin. Those string instruments, they're basically four-string instrument. Mandolin is a four-string instrument, but you double all the strings. So the four-string instruments that are small, like a mandolin, well, heck, your hand is a lot bigger on that instrument. You can easily reach up to the fifth note. So you can actually get a lot more notes in a smaller space than you can in a guitar. But it's tougher to play chords on mandolin because your fingers are getting in the way of each other. And people that have large hands and kind of fat fingers have trouble playing mandolin because they can't get their fingers in there, especially when they get up into those higher notes. There's just not enough room to get your fingers in next to each other. Although I've seen some amazing people do it, there's exceptions. So guitars are tuned, the low note is E. If we count up from E, E, and I'm just going to talk about just notes with no sharps and flats. E, F, G, A. A is the next string, right? A. It's E, F, G, A. That's four notes up. It's tuned in fourths, the strings. E to A to D, D to G, except for that G to B, that's a third, but the B to E is a fourth also. So guitars are tuned in fourths. Mandolins, violins, because they're smaller and you can reach more on it because your hand is bigger in relation to that fingerboard, is tuned in fifths. It's kind of the reverse of a guitar. If you ever get a mandolin in your hands and you haven't played a bit, think about it being the bottom four strings of the guitar upside down. It's kind of like you have to think about it while you're doing it. But you can imagine, okay, the G would be there. I shouldn't have put this away. I don't know if this is in tune. I haven't played it in a while. Okay. So that's so tiny. So the G is the same place it would be if so now imagine this is the low string on the guitar, and this is the E string, this is the A string, this is the D, and the last one over here is the G. They're the same four strings on a guitar, but upside down. So you could play the G and the B like you do on a G chord on a guitar, the opposite way. Think about it left-handed, kind of. So you think about it for a while, you can play mandolin because it's guitar chords upside down. Kind of cool thing. So the tuning on the guitar makes for something very, very cool to happen. And I think it kind of has shaped the way music goes because of the tuning. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to play an A chord, right? Standard A chord. I have the A open string and then the rest of the notes in the chord. And I'm not playing the bottom string. It fits in the chord, but it's a little bit weird, right? To hear that in the bottom. It makes it kind of muddy, right? So we usually don't play that low E string when we're trying to play, a song, unless we do it every other note with the bass string. So we do this kind of strum thing where we go boom, chick, chick, boom, chick, boom. And the guitar is built for that. I think a lot of the way we play guitar is because of that tuning, because of that boom, 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 boom that you can do with the bass. It's built into the instrument. And I think a lot of country music is all based around these open strings. We can do the same thing in D. The D. I'm not playing very well, am I? I'm missing a lot of strings here. And if we play C, right, the note C, it's over here. We all know this. Well, if I play the note directly across from that, that should be that boom, 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 boom. There it is again. It works no matter where I slide it. It's the same thing as that cool bass, boom, 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 boom. I want to talk about the notes in a chord and how we kind of name them. If we talk about the root note of the chord, the one the chord's named after, in this case, A, the A note, right? If we count up to that that other string that we're playing, the E string, we get A, B, C, D, E. It's the fifth note in A. E is the fifth note up from A. We're playing the root note and the fifth note in the chord. And many a country music player has built a career on doing just that, playing the root and the fifth in their songs, right? It's a beautiful thing, and I never get tired of it. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. There's so many songs built just on that. And you almost don't care about the part of it. You just get the kind of the bass note, and you get that strumming sounds almost like a snare drum going. You all of a sudden you have this little band playing with you. So that relationship of the root fifth, the open strings, makes the guitar this beautiful accompanying instrument. You've got that bass note that changes for you, and you got that chick, 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 chick. Doesn't even matter if you play the strings real clear, real well. It just sounds good to go. So you get bass and drums accompanying your voice with one instrument. It's a really great thing. It's really beautiful. And I think that's why I wanted to play guitar, because I wanted something to accompany me. You can't do that with mandolin too well. You just get this chink, 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 chink. You can't do that with violin, play single notes and sing. It just doesn't work so well. Guitar is perfect for that. Bass, it's tough to play bass and sing it a lot at the same time. And you can't make a career out of playing bass and singing as a solo act. It just doesn't work. You got to have a little bit more going on. So that's why the guitar is so great. And it's because of the way it's tuned, because of that open fifth that's built into it. It's four notes up, but it's a fifth. So if we talk about the steps of the scale, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the repeat. So we go back to 1. In the key of C, that would be C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. When we get to A, we don't go on. I mean, when we get to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, we don't go to H. We go back to A because we're out of notes, basically. So we go on to A again. We start over. And then we call all those other notes variations of that. A sharp, A flat, B sharp, B flat. There is such a thing as B flat, B sharp, even though sometimes they're the same note. Confusing. Don't worry about it. Now, guitar playing doesn't really lend itself to theory very well. Piano, it lends itself to theory beautifully because it's very visual. One thing about guitar is you don't have to know what you're doing to play the thing. It just sounds good to just play a chord. And if you put your fingers in the right place, it sounds great. Piano, you got to know a little bit more about it. Plus, I think a lot of guitar players are like me. They want to be singers, and they don't want a lot of confusion in the background, and they want something really portable. So guitar fills all that stuff for me. It's why I got into the instrument, is because I want to sing. And I always wanted to sing, but I couldn't, consider playing something like saxophone because I'm a singer, right? I play tin whistle now, and it's pretty tough to play tin whistle and sing. You got to play a little bit, sing a little bit, play a little, sing a little. And I can't play single notes on the guitar and sing at the same time very well either. I got to play chords on the guitar to sing. I got enough to concentrate on with the lyrics and the melody rather than trying to think about what notes I'm playing, individual notes. I got to strum chords. Guitar is great for that. Piano, you can bang out the chords, but it gets pretty annoying after a while to hear somebody just bang on chords.
Dennis, we have Carl asked a question. It's in the chat, if you can see that.
Oh, sure. I didn't see it. Sure. Questions? You can just spit them out, yell them out if you want. So, Carl says, can you say something about the pattern of half steps to the scale? Why does it sound like a good progression, even though there are whole steps and half steps between pitches? Okay, Carl. I think what we want to know is, how is a scale constructed? Okay. A major scale, there's two kinds of scales basically: major scales, minor scales. Major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, goes like this: C in the key of C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Most of the scale is whole steps. We talked about the distance between the frets. One fret is a half step, two frets is a whole step. Most of the scale is whole steps. It goes do to re, that's a whole step, to mi, that's a whole step. No, re to mi. But mi to fa is the half step. There's two half steps in a scale: mi to fa, and the other one is ti to do. Everything else is whole steps. So it goes whole step, half step, and then three whole steps: whole step, whole step, whole step, and one more half step that brings us back to do at the top. Here we go. Here's a C. The next whole step up, a whole step up. Look, I'm going to do it all on one string. We go whole step. We go another whole step. Now we go half step, only one fret up. Now we go whole step, whole step, whole step, and the last one is the half step. No matter where I start on this instrument, if I employ that whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, I'll get a scale. I'll get the major scale. I'm going to start somewhere. I'm not going to go look. Okay, I'm starting on, what is that? Oh, it's an open D. Okay. I'm going whole step. Here comes my half step. Now I need three more whole steps. And here's the last half step. It doesn't matter where you start, it's going to work. Two whole steps and a half, three whole steps and a half. That's the major scale. Now, you probably heard somebody talk about modes sometime or other. Modes, right? Well, that means you start the scale on a different step. Instead of starting on do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, you start on a different step. You can start a scale on re. So here's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re. You can start it on mi. You can start it on fa. If you start it on so, la, ti. Wait a minute. What am I doing? If you start it on la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. That's a minor scale. A minor scale is starting on la, not starting on do. Exact same notes, you're just starting on la instead of starting on do. La is the sixth step up. So in the key of C, that would be C, D, E, F, G, A. They're related to each other. They have the same key signature. If you count up from C, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's an A. C major and A minor use the same scale, but start in different places. C starts on do. A minor scale starts on la. but the same notes. So it's kind of weird. They're related. And that's why A minor is the relative of C major. They have the same key signature. They use the same sharps and flats, although in C there's no sharps and flats, but they're the same kind of family. They're related. So it's a relative minor of C is A minor. If we're playing a song, let's say we're playing oh da 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 da. That gets a little boring to hear the same chord over and over. We can use that relative minor chord in there because they're so close to each other. Let's see what it sounds like using an A minor in there. Da 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 da. All of a sudden, it has much more interest because we threw in a substitute chord, the relative minor. So if you're playing a song, writing a song, and it's getting to sound a little samey, try throwing in the relative minor. And how do you find the relative minor? Let's say we're in the key of G. Let's count up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, that's an E. So G, E minor is the relative minor of G. The relative minors are really cool. They give you so much more interest because suddenly you've gone from the happy sound, major chords sound happy, minor chords sound sad. You've gone from the happy to the sad, from the happy to the sad. All of a sudden you're doing an emotional thing and your lyric is bound to reflect that emotional thing of going from happy to sad. It's a very important kind of songwriting concept to really grasp onto, that the chords need to emotionally fit the lyrics. And if you write a set of lyrics and then totally write a separate melody, sometimes they don't work because the chords weren't written as the same time as the lyric and don't fit the same emotional content. You need to have those minor chords in there on key lines often, kind of to relate that sense of sadness in a line, or poignancy, or distrust, or doubt, or all those other things that can be implied by a minor chord that aren't implied by major chords. Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
So the minor is one of the modes that are possible from starting on a different step.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand. The minor?
So the minor, so you said modes are simply starting a scale on a different step.
Exactly.
So then the minor is one of those modes. Which mode is a minor?
It's actually called the Aeolian minor, but nobody calls it that.
Oh, okay.
It's just the relative minor.
Yeah.
The
And
relative minor to the major.
do you have any comment or understanding why does it sound happy or sad? Do you have any?
I do know the answer to that. I do know the answer to that. Okay, this is very, very hip. I love this. Okay, so chords are 3 notes, right? 2 notes are just 2 notes, and they're an interval. There is a distance between them, right? I'm going to stay in the key of C because we don't have to worry about sharps and flats. So in C, if we play the note C, the next note in the scale is D. The next note is E. In a C chord, you have C, E. You skip the in-between note, right? We're playing just the 1 and the 3, but it's not a chord yet because we only have 2 notes. How do we get in the next one? We go from that 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 4, and go to 5, 1, 3, 5. That's a major chord, 1, 3, 5. These first two notes, let's count how many half steps apart they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 half steps. Let's count how many half steps apart between that third and the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're different distances apart. The first is a third. The second is a third. But the first third is a bigger distance than the second third. The first third is a major third. The second third is a minor third. They're different distances apart. So a major chord has 3 notes in it, the root, the third, and the fifth. The first 2 notes are a major third apart. The second 2 notes are a minor third apart. So we could build a chord off of that third step and scale, C, D, E. We get E minor chord. So a C chord is a major third on bottom and a minor third on top. What happens if you flip those around and you put the minor third on bottom and the major third on top? You get this. I take that third, move it down a half step. If I change that third down a half step, it makes the distance between the root and the third smaller, but it makes the distance between the third and the fifth larger. So now the bottom 2 notes are the minor third, and the top 2 notes are the major third. A major chord is a major third, minor third. A minor chord is a minor chord, a minor third, major third. And that's why they're called major or minor. It really refers to that first 2 notes, the first interval, that first third. If it's a major third, it's a major chord. If it's a minor third, it's a minor chord. So they're kind of like, they're similar, but boy, do they have a different feel. Let me give you an example. Okay, F major chord. This is a great thing for guitar players to do in the key of C, right? Let's go to the bridge of the song. We're writing a song, okay? I think I wrote an example of some words here somewhere. I can't find them. But let's say this is the middle of our song and we're going to the bridge and it's a love song. So I told her today that I had to go away. That emotion of major. I told her today. Oh, well, good. Okay, you can tell the girl something. I had to go away. I go from happy to sad, major to minor. It's gonna work every single time. If you go from a major chord to a minor chord, it is a slap in the face that works, that tells the listener, this is something important. Listen to this. The emotion is changing right here in the song. This is the point where you're going to really discover how I feel about this relationship. Because I told her today I had to go away. It works. It's a great thing, major to minor, using the chords with the emotional structure of the minor and the major. So important. I can't overemphasize how that has to work together. The words, the emotion of the words has to mix with the emotion of the chords, major and minor. Am I mixing you up, guys? Okay, so yeah, Alice has posted. Whoa, 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 whoa! What does that mean? Oh, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step. Okay, most of our guitar players, we don't care too much about scales. Scales are kind of like, let the lead guitar player do that. I'll hire somebody to play that stuff if I need it, right? I want to sing, I want to strum chords. I want to do something that's fairly easy while I'm doing this complicated thing, remembering the lyrics and trying to impart some emotion into what I'm doing and trying to sing on pitch, and keep track of the tempo and the dynamics of the song. I don't want to think about playing individual notes. Let somebody else to handle that stuff. That's plenty enough for another player to do.
But what if you're the only player, Dennis?
So what I do is this. If I'm going from one chord to another, I'll play a little run, but I'm not going to play a big whole string of notes. I'm not going to go. I'll go. And so I told her today I had to go away. And so I just walk up. Do, re, mi, fa. So we talked about major and minor chords. Let's talk about all those other chords. There's a zillion of them, right? There's an endless amount of chords on this instrument, right? And you can even play the same chord in 6 places, Here's a C chord, here's a C chord, here's a C chord, here's a C chord. They're all over the place, right? Yeah, Carl.
Is it me or is just the guitar? Some chords are just hard to play. I think like B chords are just hard, right?
Oh, they are. They
Why is
are.
that?
Miserable. That's why you ignore them.
Yeah, and then I wonder like what I'm missing in my music because I just don't play certain chords much.
No, heck with it. You know what you can do, which is something I do frequently, right? Is if there's a really difficult chord to play, if there's a B minor chord somewhere and really important, I'm playing. Let's say I'm going. Right? I have to do that in a song for some reason. I can skip the chord and play just the bass note. Just kind of let the bass line follow it and don't worry about the structure of the whole chord. Sometimes it's unnecessary. Often it's really effective in a song is to play just the bass notes for the last verse. Is to skip the chording and play just bass notes for that last verse. And holy smokes, it brings the dynamics way, way back. I'm trying to think of some song I can do that with right now. Like, your cheating heart will make you weep. I'm walking up right to the next one. You'll rock around and try to sleep. Okay, now it's the last verse of the song, right? Your cheating heart will make you weep. You walk around and you try to sleep, but sleep won't come. Play just the bass notes and ignore the rest of the chord. Just give it a little. That's very, very effective. And if it's a tough chord, nobody's going to come up to you and say, how come you didn't play that full B chord there in that part? That's not going to happen. Okay, so all those other chords, we talked about a major chord, right? It's a triad, three parts, the root, third, fifth. Minor chord, root, third, fifth, but the third is a half step lower in a minor chord. The only difference between major and minor is you take that third, you move down a half step. Real easy to see in A, right? A, B, C, right? The C note. We take that C note and bring it down a half step, and it's an A minor chord. Only difference is that half step. You can find any, make any chord a major to minor by finding the third and lowering it a half step, right? But we kind of get tired of just those straight chords. We want to fancy them up a little bit. And the first thing we can do is add another third. We've got the root, the third, and the fifth. We're skipping the 2 and the 4, right? 1, 3, 5. Let's skip 7 and right go to the next. Add another third on top, the 7th. Now we've got root, third, fifth, and 7th. That's the 7th chord. In C, the first 7th chord, we're going to add the note on top, the 7th note. What's 7 before 8? That would be the top note is C. That would be 8, right? So a half step down, we need to add that 7th note. And we get a C major 7 chord. Now, this is something that just blows my mind. And it took me a while to kind of come across this, to discover this. I don't think anyone ever told me this. I kind of figured it out, that a C major 7 chord is a major chord, and it's a minor chord. Major chord, minor chord. It's a major chord and a minor chord at the same time. A C major 7 chord is a major chord with a minor chord stacked on top of it. It's a C chord with an E minor chord at the same time. It's actually 2 chords put together. Isn't that cool? It's a major and minor at the same time. So it gives a whole different emotional feel. It's not happy. It's not sad. It's got this wistful kind of melancholy to it. And so many of my favorite songs are written with that wistful melancholy feel. Like, don't let the sun catch you crying, or ferry cross the Mercy, 'cause this land's the land I love, and here I'll stay. Or from the Fantastics, trying to think of the name of the song. I'm blanking out on it. Oh well, but there's thousands and thousands of songs. Moon, moon river, wider than a mile. That major 7. And it adds that melancholy to the song. That song would not be the same if you sang Moon River, Moon River. It's got that feeling. Now, a lot of people think major 7 chords are really corny, and they won't use them because they're kind of like, I don't know, too schmaltzy or something. And yeah, they can be very schmaltzy, but if they're used subtly, not used all the time, and you don't write major 7 chords in all your songs, they can be highly, highly effective, especially on the 4 chord, right? Okay, so the F chord, how do we find the major 7? Remember, we took the top note. Okay, it's an F chord, so let's take the F and bring it down a half step. The top F, Now it's an F major 7. I'm playing the open note. There's the F major 7. Just by taking the top note and moving it down a half step. That's how you get the major 7. A half step difference. We talked about the C major 7, right? F major 7. 3 primary chords used in almost every song that's written. The chords that are built on the first step, the chords that are built on the fourth step, and the chords that are built on the fifth step. The 1, the 4, the 5. There's a reason we use that 1, 4, 5 thing. If we call, let's say you're doing a song with some other people, and you say, okay, this song goes C, A minor, F, G, except I don't want to play it in the key of C. Let's do it in the key of B flat, and I don't know what the chords are, but they're just play the chords you would play in C, A minor, F, G, in B flat, however that works. Well, that's too confusing. If we call it by the numbers, the 1 chord, A minor, would be the 6, F would be the 4, and G would be the 5. Well, let's do a 1, 6, 4, 5 progression in B flat. Well, any jazz musician will go, sure, no problem, bam. And as long as you stick to straight keys without those flats, most guitar players will be able to follow it too. Let's do a 1, 4, 5 in C. We'd go. In G, it would go. Right? You can do it almost in any key. 1, 4, 5. Stick in the 6th chord there. All of a sudden, we have a progression. A progression is a series of chords that's going to happen over and over again in a song. That's a chord progression. So I want to get back to the 7th chord. Now, if we take that 5, right? In key of G, that would be, key of C, that would be the G chord. The 5 chord is G, right? C, D, E, F, G. G is the 5. And we play that, and we add the 7th note in G, to the G chord. We get, here's the C, the G. But if we go down a half step, it would be G major 7. That F sharp, that note is not in the key of C. That doesn't belong there. In the key of C, those are the notes. There's no in the key of C. It doesn't fit. Let's take our G and play the note that fits, the 7th that fits. Here's the G chord. And we're going to play the 7th that fits. It's a whole step down. That's a G7 chord, not a major 7 chord. That major 7 was the half step. A G7 chord is the 7th note, but not the half step. It's a whole step down. That G7 chord, it hangs there and it causes tension. Thank God he played the final chord, right? It hangs and it wants to resolve. That you just can't stand it. Stop, please. Thank God. That tension release. Yeah, Carl.
I got confused with too many terms. So we're talking about scales, chords, and then you threw in the word key. What is a key?
Right. Okay. So Let's say we're playing in the key of C. Basically, C is going to be our home chord, right? We count up the next note from C, C, D, and we build the chord on that step. It's a D minor chord. E is the next step. That's a minor chord. That's the 3 chord. 4 chord is a major chord. That's the F. The 5 chord is a major chord. That G7. The 6th chord is a minor chord. The 7th chord is diminished chord that you don't want to mess with yet. And back to C as the top chord. So each step has a triad, the root, third, fifth built on it. Okay, well, you can do that in any key. You can do that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do in the key of D, just starting up higher, right? C's here, well, D is here. It starts up higher. So that's a new key. We're going to, instead of calling this do, we're going to call this note do. Do, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So we started our scale on a different home step. Instead of starting on C, we're going to start on D. Now we'll play the scale and our chords in D. So we've switched keys, our key center. What locks us in, the key, is now D, or the key can be G. But that relationship of whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step is the same no matter what key you're in. The home note is the key. So the home note in key of A is A. So you go A and you go up a whole step, and a half step, a whole step, and one more final half step, and you're back up to the home note. The key throws in all the sharps and flats stuff that you don't really care about it as a guitar player too much. Because, you know, we like to play in keys that are easy. Like you were saying, a B minor's pretty tough sometimes. We like to play the key of C, key of D, key of E. Not so much the key of F, because then you got to play a B flat here and it cramps your hand up. We like to play in G. That's a good one. A is a good one. B, no. And all those flat keys, E flat, oh my God, who the hell plays an E flat? You know, it's a hand buster. I can't even get those notes to sound out good and clean. Nobody plays an E flat. That's, well, nobody I know. And B flat, and you want to do that? Here's how you play in the key E flat. You take your capo and you put it on the guitar here, right? And you strap it on there, and then you play in the key of C. You put it on the third fret and you're playing the key of C. Then you're playing an E flat. But, you know, don't worry about those flats and sharps. It's just too confusing. You don't really need to know about it. The key is the home note, the bass chord, the one that the song starts in and usually ends at. That's the key of the song. The chord that is the home chord in the song, the one you start with, the one you end with. That usually tells you the key of the song. It could be minor. You load 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. Let's say A minor. A minor, right? It's the key A minor. You start on A minor, you end on E minor. I sold my soul to the company store. You don't go, sold my soul to the company store. Oh my God, nobody wants to hear that major chord. It's minor. You start in minor, you end in minor. You don't go changing major to minor on the last chord, right? You stay in the minor key if you're in a minor key. You might go somewhere else to a major key, but you got to come back to it to end the song.
Dennis, I have a question on the sevenths.
Sure.
So we have the major seventh, we have the minor seventh, and then the dominant seventh. And I
Right.
got confused about when you say G7, well, is it just a 7 or is it a dominant 7 or
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
where I got really confused.
This is one of those term things that gets really confusing. With the major chords, like the key of C, the C major chord, it could be a C chord, it could be a C major seventh chord, it could be a C7 chord, or if you change the C chord into a minor chord, it could be a C minor chord. And then you could add a seventh to that, and you end up with a C minor seventh chord. All those terms get really confusing. What seventh are we talking about? So to avoid confusion a little bit, it's often called a dominant seventh chord when you play the chord that's built on the fifth step of the scale. In the key of G, that would be, in the key of C, that would be G. C, D, E, F, G, the fifth. The fifth chord in C is G. In G, for our G, we play that F natural. It's different than the G major 7, right? Here's G major 7. That wistful chord, that melancholy chord. Here's the major, that's the major 7. Here's the G7.
With F.
It's the flatted 7th, right? That's
Yes.
the note that belongs in the key of C. F sharp doesn't belong in the key of C. F belongs in the key of C. That's why
So
we play.
G7 is dominant
The
7th, is that right?
G7 is called the dominant 7
Oh, okay.
because it helps to differentiate between major 7 and 7.
Okay, that's good. I'll remember that because I love G7. It's my favorite.
So that G7, right? It's the chord that wants to move. It's the one that wants to resolve. Remember, we got that.
On F, yeah.
You get those two notes that are kind of clashy. They want to go. They want to resolve to that. That's built into a dominant 7 chord. That is the thing that moves the song, the progression, onto the home chord, C.
C, yeah. Cool. That helps a lot.
That's what a dominant 7 chord does. It adds
Okay.
tension to make a release feel really good when it comes, when you hit that home chord. You get rid of that tension. So
Got
Louise
it.
says, this gives me a thought and
Yeah.
a new prompt for future songwriting, but do most songwriters think about matching lyrics to chords? I sure do, Louise. I sing my melodies and my words, and then I find chords that fit it.
Ah,
I don't write to chords very often. I write music to melodies. And then I
wow.
try to find chords that'll fit it. And often that happens, almost instantaneously because I know when I'm singing a major chord or a minor chord when I'm just singing, I know what it feels like. But sometimes I'll find that oh, when I'm young, when I was young, maybe that would sound better with the minor, the relative minor. Oh, when I was young. Minor is a better feel. Or maybe that major 7, the little wistful. Oh, and when I was young. Well, they all have 3 different feelings. When I was young, it's a Kingston trio, When I was young, oh, I'm some dour old man singing about his last days on the world. Oh, when I was young, I was so hearty in hale. Or when I was young. And I'm reflectful there, So there's 3 different feelings: the major, the minor, the major 7. And yeah, you can use a 7 on that. When I was young, when I was free. It's a different feeling, right? It's more aggressive.
Yeah.
I think chords carry so much emotion, and you gotta use that in your lyric, how that feels, what it's doing.
Thank you.
Whew. We're covering a lot of stuff here. We covered scales a little bit, but for guitar players, scales, they don't mean a whole lot. Unless you're a lead guitar player or unless you want to play single note kind of stuff. You don't know. If you're a songwriter, you don't really need to know too much about scales. You do need to know about chords. So let's explore the minor chords with the seventh. Okay. So before I said the 1, the 4, and the 5, those notes in the key of C, it would be C, F, and G, right? They are the major chords, the 1, 4, the 5. Everything else except that 7th chord, which we don't use too often, is a minor chord. So the 2 chord is minor, 3 chords are minor, 4 chord major, 5 chord major, 6 chord minor. So we've got 3 minor chords to play with in the key of C that are going to work pretty well. Okay, so here's our key of C. Let's go to the 2 minor. That would be D. Let's go to the 3 minor. Now from there, I don't think you want to go to another minor. It's too much minor stuff in a row. So we want to go to a major chord. That's the 4 chord. So that's not a bad chord progression right there, just to use 1, 2, 3, 4, and back to 1. Well, why don't we throw that 5 in there too? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Well, you can hear that it's going. It's going up the scale with the chords. And you think, yeah, maybe that doesn't work so well. It does too. It works wonderful. I'm going to turn on piano because this song was written on piano doing that very thing. Okay, hope you can hear this. Dragging my mic over here. Hear that? Some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Okay. Sometimes in my life, we all have pain. We all have sorrow. That's going up the scale, just playing the chords in the scale as they go up and down. And it works great if you know what to do, if you know how to do it. Lean on Me is that very thing. It's just going up the scale. Do, re, mi, fa, so fa, mi, re, do. Playing the chords that are built on those scale steps. But let's talk about those minor chords, okay? That D minor chord. That's the first one that comes up, right? C, the next note is D. Let's do the minor chord. How do we find the 7th? Well, we find the root note of the chord, the D. There it is. It's that D right there. And if you play the half step down 7th, that doesn't work very well. It's very clashy. You need a whole step down when you're playing a minor chord and you want to add the 7th. It's a whole step down from the root note. The root note in the D minor chord is D. So a whole step down from D would be C, right? We need the C note. there's our D minor 7. We took the D, this one, and we played C. D minor. 7. You find the 7th of a minor chord by going down a whole step from the root. Try to remember. That's the song, Kathy. You're right. Try to remember. Try that. Maybe it's not in C. We'll try it in C anyway. Try to remember the kind of September when life was green and oh so mellow. Yeah, major 7 chords. They can be great. Okay, so minor chords, the 7th note is a whole step down from the root. So E minor, what would be the 7th note? John, what would it be? You got to turn your mic on, John. Yeah.
Yep. 7th note from, sorry, I was taking notes on the thing you just said before.
Yeah, the E minor chord, right? We're going to find the 7th of the chord and count, instead of counting up 7, we'll just take the top note, right? The E at the top, and we go down a whole
D.
step, and it would be a
D.
D, right? So we took the E minor, now we add the D. So we're playing the E minor with a D note in it. There's our E minor 7 chord. That's how you find the 7th of the chord in minor. You take the root and go down to the 7th, but go a whole step down, not a half step. Minor chords with a half step down are weird. Don't do it. It's strange. You get these kind of chords. Maybe it works somewhere, but most of the time, regular minor 7ths are fine. Whole step down. Can you build a chord and add other notes that aren't the root, the 3rd, the 5th, or the 7th? Well, as I explained before, these are the every other notes, the 1, 3, 5, right? Kind of the odd notes, 1, 3, 5, 7. If you go keep on that, right? 7, 8, skip that, add the 9th, there's a 9th chord. Skip 10, add 11th, an 11th chord. You're getting really jazzy, you're getting real out there with these chords. Even get 13ths. 13ths are really cool. They're great chords, but most guitar players don't know from 13ths. We'll handle 1 to 9. That's pretty much for all of us what we need. You can play 11ths, you can play 13ths, but 1 through 9 is pretty much all you'll need for your whole life in the way of chords, adding extra notes to the root triad, the 1, 3, 5. As a matter of fact, when you add other notes, 1, 3, 5, when you get to the 7, and then you want to add a 9th, it's getting confusing to hear all those notes at one time. Okay, so here's a C chord. There's the 7th, and here's the 9. Well, you can't play all those notes at once. You don't have enough strings or enough fingers. So we drop the 7th out, and it sounds great without the 7th. C9. Without the 7th. You can drop some notes out. That's legal. It's okay to do. C9 chord. It's a beauty. C is 8. D is 9, right? So you're adding a 9th. All of a sudden, you'll start to do. Gives you other feels, other dimensions, right? One of my favorite chords is the 6 chord. In the key of C, what would that note be? Kathy, what do you think?
A.
A. We're going to add the A note to a C chord. The Beatles ended a lot of their songs with 6 chords. Uh, it's a cool thing to do, but it gets overdone really quick. But if you use a 6 chord, and you learn some of the inversions for a 6 chord, like a real cool one is all you do is play the A chord. If you want to build the 6 for an A chord, F sharp is your note for A. The 6, so you just bar one more string. And when you learn kind of the other cooler ways to play 6 chords, man, it's really, really fun because you get this. That's a different way to play that chord, but it's a 6 chord. Gets very jazzy real quick. L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. And you can slide them. It's a very, very kind of cool swing thing to do with it with 6 chords. Six chords. It will bring a whole new dimension to your songwriting. You'll be writing those Texas swing tunes where you go. Six chord. Learn those things. Look it up on a chord chart. You'll see cool ways to play it. You can't even hardly see my fingers on Zoom. The 6 chords are really nice chords, and they're really good to use on the home chord of the song. So from playing in the key of G, play a G6 chord instead of just playing the plain old G chord. Play a G6 chord. It's going to bring a whole new emotional depth to what you do. Did you ever hear of, I'm trying to think of their name, vocal group from the 30s, not the Ink Spots, the Mills Brothers. Mills Brothers. They did fabulous stuff. And they almost always started every song with 6 chord, a little progression that went. Thousands of songs written like that with that. Some going 1 to the 2 chord, which is a minor, right? To the 5 chord, which is the dominant 7. And it's got that suspension in there, that aggravation, that thing that wants to go back to G and resolve. 6 chords. It's jazzy, but it doesn't have to be overly sophisticated. It can be kind of funky and kind of swing. It's a swing chord, and it's just so much fun to write songs in that swing idiom, that whole groove where you're playing a lot of downstrokes. And you don't play that alternating bass thing. You don't go. you're playing pretty much. And you let the bass notes walk you to the next chord. Here comes that 5 chord where we can slide into it. And you can slide down too. You don't have to slide up. So you can take your chords and slide them up or down. It's really fun to do.
Cool. Well, we have about 10 more minutes left. Does anyone have a question for Dennis?
Good grief, we're running out of time.
I wanted to actually throw something out. There's a chord app called Ulimo. And I was actually trying to figure out the 6th chord you were playing, and I found it on Ulimo. I don't know if anybody.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's it.
But also, if you look to the other side of it, there's all other variants. It's,
Oh, yeah.
so I'm going to put it in. It was like, I don't know, $8 or something. You can, for me, I do crazy experimentation with chord, and I don't know what chord I'm even playing. So you can, in one of the apps, 2 versions of this, you can actually plug in the chords you're using. It'll tell you what chord.
And it'll tell you what it's called. Right.
It'll tell you what it's called. So
Right.
it's a very cool app if you're looking to, like, again, back to somebody said, getting your fingers around, you can find fingerings that are easier to work with. So I'll put that in the chat. No questions, but thank you for the 6th chord. That alone was worth it.
Oh, 6 chords. Oh, it's a life changer. It's really fabulous. So we talked about major chords, minor chords, but we didn't talk about diminished chords. Now, I'll just touch on this real quick.
We could save for diminished for next time.
Okay, but while it's in their minds, I'm going to put it in there. We'll discuss it more at length next time. But okay, major chord is a major third with a minor on top. A minor chord is a minor chord, a minor third on bottom, a major chord, a major third on top. It's minor, major, major, major chord, minor, a major third, minor third. Minor chords, the inverse of that, the minor and a major. Now, a diminished is a minor and a minor. That's what a diminished is. It's 2 minors stacked on top of each other, looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. They got their picks in hand. Those minors are stuck down there. It's a terrible joke. We got any last questions? All this stuff about scales, keys, much more interesting for musicians that play guitar and write songs is to talk about chords and how they're structured.
Kathy
Okay.
has a question about
Yeah.
sliding. Kathy, go ahead and ask your question.
Just when you're sliding, do you finger the chord as is, a half step lower, or are you fingering something else?
Exactly the same thing, and just slide up into it or down into it. That half step slide up or down into the chord is just it's so cool. Works in blues, fabulous too.
Oh,
Like if we're doing blues, let's say we're going. Here comes the 5 chord. Now I'm on the 4 chord. And what's the cool thing to do with the 4 chord? Go from major to minor. Remember we talked about that, the 4 chord, go from major to minor? It works in blues too. And we're going to slide down into our last chord. And end on a 6. Yeah, John, that's an app you can get on your phone, right? Olimo?
I guess it's Olimo or Ulimo, but it's amazing. You know, you're playing a sus chord and you don't know what it is, and you look, oh, that's a sus chord. And then for me, when I'm co-writing with Tina, she said, well, what chords are you using there? And I'll literally I'll take screenshots and send her the chords.
Good.
Oh,
All this stuff about writing music down on paper, I can do it. And I learned how to do it in school and I still use it. But for most guitar players, it's useless stuff. And a lot of theory is about that, is about writing on paper. Not needed. We can record it. Writing music on paper for me was always the way you remembered how it goes. That was the way to remember how the song goes, is to write the notes on paper. Well, now that we have all these fabulous recording technologies that write in our phone, you know, we don't have to use paper that much. I mean, it just takes up a lot of room. It's much easier to record it. And that's how it goes. That's the beautiful thing. Okay, well, there's tons more to cover here, but Alice, did you let everybody have the handout? Did you give that or send them that link?
I did. Is there anybody here that did not receive it this morning?
Sally says she didn't get it. Carl didn't get it. Oh,
I'm not-
a lot of
How do you
people
get
didn't
it?
get
Was
it.
it in the email?
It was an email. I sent it earlier today.
See if
I'm
I-
not sure. I just didn't look through every
It's an
email.
attachment. It's an
Yeah.
attachment.
Oh. Dennis, can I ask you one
Oh,
question?
absolutely.
Out of the songwriters you admire, which are the ones you would say do this most, matching the lyrics to the chords? Or is it
I
everyone?
think John Sebastian is just
Huh?
fabulous with that. John Sebastian is just one of my favorite all-time writers. Like that whimsical kind of thing he does with "What a day for a daydream," using those sevenths. What a day for a daydreaming boy. Now I'm lost in a daydream, dreaming about my bundle of joy. A younger girl keeps roaming across my mind. He just emotionally, his chords fit every song he played, every song he wrote. Even like hot town, summer in the city, back of my neck getting dirt and gritty. Bend down, isn't it a pity? Doesn't seem to be a shadow in the city. All around, people looking half dead, walking down the sidewalk. From minor to major, hotter than a hot head. And he changes key for the chorus. Ooh, great songwriter, John Sebastian.
Thank
And
you.
Laura Nero.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God. If you don't know Laura Nero's music, take a day of your life and put Laura Nero on Pandora or Spotify and just listen to Laura Nero. Probably one of the greatest women writers, just one of the greatest writers ever. She had so many songs that were hit songs from everyone from Blood, Sweat, and Tears to Barbra Streisand. I mean, you know, like wildly different acts recorded Laura Nero's songs. And her chords are fabulous, just fabulous, and so emotional. I
Thank
just
you.
love Laura Nero so much.
I think I'll explore her. I know John Sebastian well.
Oh, yeah. John's is great. So cool.
Folks, I put the handout in the chat. So if that now is a good time to download it if you didn't receive it from me earlier today.
I received it.
Okay.
Final
Okay.
questions, anybody? Well, there's a lot of stuff I'd like to cover in a part two if you're up for it. And it's more in-depth stuff about things like sustained chords, that sus chord, and things like how to use bass runs in playing your chords. And mostly those are scale things, but they're pretty simple. Boy, it opens up a new dimension to your guitar playing. And it's a little theory thing that's easily learned too. And there's this is just the beginning of a rabbit hole of music theory. It goes really deep. but I just want to kind of cover the things that you can actually use. And I think you'll be able to actually use those 6 chords. Yeah, Carl.
Question, augmented chords, what does that mean?
Augmented. We talked about the major chord is a major and a minor third. Minor chord is a minor and a major third. A diminished chord is a minor and a minor third. Augmented chord is a major and a major third. And I can show you how those things work, the diminished chords and augmented chords. That should be in the next lesson. And the next.
Also, if you have questions for Dennis, you can send them to me and I'll send them to Dennis. And that way we can, if there's, top of mind topics, we'll get them covered for you. This class is for you for next week. So y'all you have used the same registration for next week, same exact thing. I'll send out the handout, same handout, and the email link or the Zoom link next week. And you're good to go. If you have questions, pin me during the week so that we can address those questions earlier in the meeting.
Real quick.
Thank you so much, Dennis.
Thank you.
Real quick for Carl, I'm going to show him where augmented chord works.
Yeah,
right in the
yeah.
song.
Go ahead.
What it feels like.
It's right to feel the way I do because I love you. It's right. Here comes the augmented. It's right
Where?
to feel the 4 chord to the minor the way I do because I love you. And here's that slide, but done slow. So many 60 songs did that. All right. See you next week on this. And my New Jersey people, I'll see you Thursday.
Thank you so much,
Oh,
Dennis.
thank you. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Dennis.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Alice,
Yes.
can you, are you going to send out this recording before the next class? Can you
I'll
do
send it
that?
out. I'm sending it out tonight.
Oh, all right, great. Okay, just checking. I got to watch it first.
Yeah, I know.
Before next week.
You
Thank
got
you.
it. Thanks for coming, Katrina. I
Thank
know you
you,
were busy
Alice.
tonight.
I know.
Bye.
Great.
Thanks, Dennis. You're awesome.
Okay.